Hi guys, and another video. Okay, I'll stop fooling around. So why is it? I was just watching something on YouTube, and somebody got no sales for the day, and it just made me think about all the times. It reminds me now of a specific week. I had a whole week where I got 0 sales. That was a tough week. Because even the absolute best of the best I've seen finish the night. I was going to say get in the van at the end of the night. We used to go out in a van. We used to go out in a Toyota Tarago, Toyota Alphard, an 8-seater people mover. There'd be 7 or 8 of us, 6, 7, 8 of us. And so you get in at the end of the night. Your team leader would pick you up. And, you'd all be like, how have you got on? How have you got on? It's a very motivating experience, but sometimes even the best of the best would get in the van. Oof, 0. Donutted. Did a donut. Big fat 0. You think, God, what the hell happened there, And ultimately, you just have to put these things down to, you just have to be philosophical about these times, right? But I remember one particular time, I had a whole week of that. Now, that was the only time that happened. And I'd been knocking doors a few months. I've got a feeling it was when I'd come back from my very first regional trip. And they say this happens, right? You go away on a regional trip, you double or even triple what you would do in town. And then the shock of being back, it all feeling very hard again, is a lot to take. And it can be a bit of a head melt. And basically, I had a bit of a head melt. It had felt so easy on my door-to-door, on my regional trip, even though in retrospect, it wasn't, I tripled my numbers. I'd normally, at the time, being fairly new, I used to do a sale a day, 5 sales, go on this regional trip, do 15, 16 sales. Coming back into town, like, oh my God, I've got to really try hard again. And I think it just melted my head. The funny thing was, how do you get over that? How do you get over it? Because it can happen to anybody. It's how you get over it. Now, my sales manager, who was the top sales manager in the country, I worked for a company who were a national company throughout Southeast Asia. And so there was perhaps about 20 offices in Australia, and we were the top office. And he said to me, he said, Stuart, we've got a long weekend coming up. He said, just get yourself away somewhere, mate. He said, book yourself a flight, get yourself away somewhere, have a few drinks, just forget all about it, and you will come back fresh. And I said, okay, oh yeah, I'll think about it. And the funny thing was, I knew instantly, I thought, that ain't going to work. That is not going to work. I know exactly what I need to do. And basically, I've touched on this. I'd stopped following my script. I had stopped following my script and I had started to wing it. That's what had happened. I've been to Kalgoorlie, and halfway through, I may have stopped following my script then. Okay. Because it was just so easy. Crikey, you can say anything to these people. Come back to town. Just saying anything to these people, trying to wing it. Forget it. Didn't happen. So, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I did nothing but listen to Tom Hopkins, go through all my Brian Tracy books, anything I could find on the net, completely rejigged, just rejigged my script. Rehearsed. That first week back, I did 9 or 10 sales. And everybody was like, Stewie, and Stewie's back. And I just continued on that. I continued on that role. And that was the thing. This is why I talk about do not start winging it. Do not. Okay. Some people, take Taylor McCarthy from what he shows on his YouTube. You can mix, you can deviate a tiny bit. You can, and maybe that's what he does. You can deviate a little, but really, you really want to stay on point. You do. That is the absolute key to not, But there is a certain amount of luck involved. There is. But good management will keep you on track with always going to suburbs that historically yield a good result. Okay. But it sort of goes back to what I've mentioned on other videos. Some suburbs are just better than others. All right. And sometimes it's your own positive mental attitude that keeps you in the game. I've discovered something about myself. And the funny thing was, when I first got into sales, it was recommended that I go into the kiosk and not into the doors. Because my personality suits people coming to me, not me going to them. But I was so enticed by the big bucks, I just had to do door-to-door sales. And another funny thing, when I was 14 or 15, and we were, you get into that age where you're thinking about, what am I going to do when I leave school? Now, at the same time, we were selling our first house, and we had an estate agent come round. And that estate agent went round the house, and he got his listing. And I said to my mum, I said, I wouldn't mind getting into sales when I leave school. And my mum said, oh, you can't do that. That's something that's for older people that have got life experience. And then my nan chimed in and she said, no, I said, sales. She said, your granddad tried sales, going door to door, selling pots and pans. Waste of time. And so ever since then, I had this thing about, I must try door to door sales. I must. But ultimately, in hindsight, I am a much better showroom salesperson. Or when somebody just phones me, like what I do now, right? People phone me. Can you come round and assess this? Can you come round and assess this? I've got myself in quite a lucky position. Can you come round? I need your help. We've been told you can help us. So, of course, now I go round to people's houses. They already need me. And, of course, my strike rate is 99%. Okay? People need me. Okay? So I can talk very eloquently, fully in depth about what my product is. And bang, all right, let's get it done. Okay? That is my comfort zone, not door to door. So where I was going wrong in door to door, I was having to keep my motivation sort of artificially high so that if I did dip, I could still have the motivation enough to keep the sales happening. Okay. I was sort of having to give myself too much motivation to keep doing it. But because the money was there, the motivation was there. But ultimately, because I'll be honest with you, I am the wrong fit for door-to-door sales. But that takes years to discover. Well, it took about 7 years to discover. And ultimately, I got burnt out. Okay. But listen, don't let this stop you from pursuing door-to-door sales. I think door-to-door sales, for most people, it's not a long-term career. It is essential experience that is going to teach you one heck of a lot, and do it for several years. But ultimately, you want to get into management, start your own business, get into a different line of sales, But But if you have these, if you're having weeks where you're not getting sales, you've really got to look deep, either into your own personality or into what the heck are you doing on the doors. You know, that the 1 week I had, it was crystal clear to me. I was just messing about with it. I'd sort of completely got myself off track, and I just needed to get myself back on track. Not through a lack of motivation. I just got myself wayward. That was the thing. I'd just gone completely off what my training had got me consistently doing. And I thought, I can do this now. And I just got completely casual about it. Okay. So again, stick to your training. Stick to what works. That's essential. Okay. Okay. Look, I'm running wild at the moment. Okay. I've got so much I just want to get out. So look, I hope you find this somewhat useful. I will elaborate. Leave any comments. Keep subscribing. Keep liking. Thanks a lot.